All right, gang. Today, as promised, I'm going to talk about Pat Casey. We're going to focus on his bench routine, although he was not a bench press specialist by any means. Had a heck of a squat, good deadlifter, good all-around lifter, had a really good total. He did train, not all the time. He started training at Red Path Gym earlier, and then you saw him with Bill Pearl. And, of course, Bruce Wilhelm wrote a book about him. So the courses that I'm going to cover are going to be from Jeff Everson in 85, a two-part article. And one of the things that was in that article was where he was talking about his peers. Marvin Eder, he was very fond of, thought he was the best pound-for-pound bencher ever. Some of these other guys he trained with actually at the original Culver City West Side Club, and I talk about that, and there's a section on Pat Casey in my book on Forgotten Secrets of the original Culver City West Side Barbell Club. And then, of course, Dallas Long was one of those guys, as were Aarons and Merjanian, and some other guys. Of course, he talks about McDonald, Arcidi, John Cole, Bruce Wilhelm, who was obviously mostly an Olympic guy, but very strong and influential to him. Then he talks about Carl Nuremberg, who you see here in this picture. I did at least one video about Carl, but he was a longshoreman, just really strong as heck guy. Didn't even really start lifting weights regularly until he was like around 60 or at least in his 50s. And he did an exhibition with Pat that he talks about here. Very impressive guy. And some other folks that he trained with and that he was impressed with, talks about Peanuts West here, who obviously, again, he trained with. Terry Todd, Jim Williams, one of the greatest benchers of all times, John Cook, another really good all-around lifter, good bencher. He was impressed with him. And one thing about Pat is he was a very hard worker. Like, typically only trained 3 or 4 days a week, but on those 3 or 4 days, he would train for hours, three or 4 hours. Here he is talking about Don Reinhardt, who unfortunately passed recently, Paul Anderson, Bill Kazmaier. So let's get into the routines themselves. And I started to say, the one routine is from Jeff Everson, and the other one's from in Bruce Wilhelm's interviewing him for the book about him. He was big on dips, incline stuff, incline barbell and dumbbell, mostly dumbbell. And you see those pictures where he's doing those crazy dumbbells with like 210s as mentioned here. Not tons of accessory stuff, although he does mention doing some bodybuilding stuff. But, your basic moves, did low reps, except we would do like maybe one pump set. Here he is doing a power clean, which was at the top of power clean. That was part of his lower body training. Well, really everything. And here's the routine as told to Bruce Wilhelm. And again, with any of these, I try to leave these text boxes up long enough for you to read them. But if you want to check any of them out, copy, paste them, pause it, look at it further, of course you can do that. And this, the Bruce Wilhelm routine, he talks about doing the lockouts, which at the end you're going to see a couple pictures of different bench presses. The second one is like a custom-made bench that he had, which kind of had its own power rack kind of thing, which enabled him to do those lockouts. Lockouts was another thing that the West Side Club was big on. Here he is getting the weight weighed at one of his records. They had to do that for world records, typically. And so he did end up, he actually was another guy that played high school football, aspired to be a pro football player maybe, and then when he got into lifting, that kind of sidetracked him into being a great lifter. He, I believe, bench pressed 500 while he was still a teenager. But then he talks about that he got to 500 fairly quickly, and then it became a little bit tough after that. And that's when he, one of the things that he started doing to break that plateau was to do the lockouts. And again, that was something that the West Side Club was big on. In fact, they had a chapter. There was a whole article about that back in the old Muscle Builder Power. And that article, again, is reprinted in my book about the club. There he is with those massive dumbbells. So here's what, to finish up on, here's his thoughts on steroids. He was clean, maybe hard to believe, but, he was a big guy. He was around 300 pounds or so. And he trained really hard, and he only trained, like I said, 3-4 days a week. Was big on dips, weighted dips. Here he was doing weighted dips with like 300 and something pounds. The only problem with the dips was he got messed up from doing the dips. Well, one time he was doing dips and somebody watching him, or, a spotter said, go lower. He did. When he did, he injured his pec, and that really messed him up. It held him back for quite a while. I don't think he ever fully recovered from that, but he still managed to end up with 600 and actually ultimately 620. There was another video with him and Sipes, because Sipes was obviously much later, but he was trying to get 600 around the same time. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.